and Hakan Fidan plans to visit Kyiv soon to continue negotiations. Russian sources said that they are also considering the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman as potential sides of peace talks. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte expects a short and conflict-free summit of the alliance on June 24th to 25 in the Netherlands. The main topic should be new targets for defense spending, reports New York Times. However, as the media notes, the participation of US President Donald Trump and the invitation of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky may cause tension. Doubts about Ukrainians' participation. It is unclear whether Zelensky will be invited to the official dinner and whether he will participate in the NATO-Ukraine Council meeting. Instead, the Ukrainian president may be invited to a parallel defense industry forum. US Ambassador to NATO Vitaka said, "I fully expect Zelensky to be at The Hague." In what capacity we're discussing. Disagreements with Trump. Trump opposes Ukraine's membership in NATO and is curtailing support for Kyiv while seeking to normalize relations with Russia. While US arms shipments continue, further funding from Congress is in question. The summit will be held against the backdrop of the US pullout from being the main guarantor of European security. A review of the US military presence on the continent is underway, which could lead to the withdrawal or redeployment of some of the 84,000 troops. The United States emphasizes that it will not allow a security vacuum, but calls on Europe to take responsibility more quickly. New targets for defense spending. The summit will propose replacing the previous target of 2% of GDP for defense with a new one, 3.5% for the armed forces and 1.5% for military-related expenses. The United States supports this goal. Currently, 23 out of 32 NATO countries are already meeting the current norm, but experts emphasize that much more is needed to compensate for possible US withdrawal. Background. NATO has grown stronger since the beginning of Russia's war against Ukraine, but no. Background. Background. NATO has grown stronger since the beginning of Russia's war against Ukraine, but no consensus has yet been reached on new spending. NATO Deputy Secretary-General Radmila Shekerinsky emphasized, "This is our core goal. It is a huge deal, but it's not a done deal." The Financial Times has learned that the European Commission and the most influential European member states are insisting on lowering the upper price cap on Russian oil to $45 to strengthen sanctions against Russia. However, this idea has not yet convinced all 27 European member states and their G7 partners, reported by Financial Times. According to people familiar with early discussions on the 18th package of European sanctions, Brussels is seeking to take more substantial measures against Russia, particularly to lower the price cap on crude oil exports from $60 to $45 per barrel. At last week's meeting of G7 finance ministers, Canada proposed including clear wording on tightening oil price restrictions in the joint statement. The proposal was supported by the European and G7 members, France, Germany, Italy, and the United Kingdom. However, according to 3 officials familiar with the meeting, it was not included at the request of US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. The final statement included language committing G7 countries to continue to explore all options, including options to maximize pressure, such as further strengthening sanctions if no ceasefire agreement is reached. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.